There has been lots of talk on the internet recently about Thread and how it's going to be the saviour to the smart home industry, with many of my fellow YouTubers already on that hype train. But can Thread live up to that hype? And what exactly makes it different to other similar technologies that are already more widely adopted? Well, to answer that question, we first need to understand what exactly Thread is. Thread is a networking technology developed by the Thread Group, with IoT and smart home products in mind, boasting low power and mesh networking capabilities. It aims to guarantee network interoperability with other Thread devices through its certification program, and anyone can have access to the Thread specification and certification program by becoming a member of the Thread Group, an alliance formed to help Thread become an industry standard, and has some big name members such as Google, Apple and Samsung to name a few. As mentioned, Thread is a low-power mesh networking technology that is capable of self-healing, and if that sounds familiar, that's because it is. Popular IoT technologies such as Zigbee and Z-Wave have been doing all three of these things for quite a while, so what makes Thread different? Well, one feature I've alluded to so far is that Thread is IP addressable, making it much easier to integrate into your existing smart home. Thread's mesh network is designed in such a way that should a device go offline or become unavailable, the other devices can quickly readjust and carry on as normal. In theory, with Thread, the more devices you add, the stronger the mesh will become and the more reliable the network will be. Another major selling point of Thread is how quick and responsive it is. Thread's mesh network allows for information to be transmitted and received from any device to any other device, and this results in multiple pathways for the information to travel and ends up eliminating any potential bottlenecks. But what are the differences to existing standards such as Zigbee or Z-Wave, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth when we compare to the major features of Thread? Bluetooth is low power, mesh capable and it integrates well with other devices, so it ticks those boxes. However, it's not IP addressable and it has another major drawback: speed and latency. Bluetooth can be notoriously slow, which results in a poor experience for certain applications where speed is needed, such as turning on a light. Wi-Fi on the other hand is very quick and responsive, it integrates very well with other devices, it's obviously IP addressable and it can technically be meshed, but the downfall of Wi-Fi is its power consumption. It's known to be a very power hungry protocol, which makes it completely unsuitable for battery operated devices such as motion sensors or door sensors. Finally, we come to Z-Wave and Zigbee. Oh, the Zigbee. Zigbee and Z-Wave for all intents and purposes have very similar properties. Both are low power, mesh capable and very fast. However, neither are IP addressable, meaning they require an additional hub, and Zigbee in particular is riddled with interoperability issues. Zigbee started as an open standard that would allow any Zigbee device to talk to any other Zigbee device. Unfortunately, as we know, it didn't quite turn out like that. Certain manufacturers took the Zigbee protocol and turned it into something that was essentially proprietary, making the Zigbee world very fragmented. So at this point, Thread is starting to sound pretty good, right? It's low power, mesh capable, lightning quick, IP addressable and designed to promote interoperability. What's not to love? Well, in practice, it doesn't on the surface appear to be as simple as that. Taking a closer look at the fact that Thread is IP addressable, one of the selling points is supposedly that Thread does not need a dedicated hub or gateway. In fact, here's a quote from the Thread website. Thread is a secure, low-power wireless communication protocol that can be seamlessly integrated into a corporate network or the internet at large. It complements and works in tandem with the existing Wi-Fi and Ethernet infrastructure. There is no need for a dedicated hub or gateway, which acts as a translator between proprietary protocols and the protocol used on the internet or most enterprise networks. And while this statement is technically true through some very carefully chosen words, if we look further down the exact same page, it starts to tell us that all we need to connect a Thread wireless network to our Wi-Fi is a border router. And if we take a look at their handy little diagram, we can clearly see that it states, a border router forwards data to Wi-Fi. Now I don't know about you, but that certainly looks like a hub to me. It's just that they've replaced the word hub with the word router, which I find to be a little disingenuous. We can actually confirm this if we head over to the Nanoleaf website and find their thread-enabled light bulb, where they state in one of the product features that it's thread-enabled with a compatible border router like an Apple HomePod Mini. If we then head over to the Eve website, who also have a thread-enabled product, it states as literally the first key benefit of Thread, no bridge. Thread accessories don't need a proprietary bridge to communicate with each other, they simply need a border router. Just because you change the word bridge to the word router doesn't make it any more true. We can all literally see it's a hub, or a bridge, or a router, so stop trying to mislead us. If I were to use Thread's logic that Thread border routers are built into the devices you know and love, then that means I can say Zigbee doesn't require a hub, since the new Amazon Assistant devices now have a Zigbee radio built in. However, in fairness, one major advantage of Thread's router implementation over something like Zigbee is that you can have multiple routers on one network. So if one of your routers fails, your whole network doesn't go into limbo like it does with Zigbee. So there are definitely advantages of having a Thread router. I just wish they were a little bit more upfront instead of trying to mislead us. We're already used to having hubs anyway, so I don't see it as a big deal. Another thing I find to be misleading around the border router is that on their website they say, many manufacturers of wireless base stations offer products that combine Wi-Fi and Thread radios in a single device. In my search, I couldn't personally find a traditional access point that has Thread radio other than the Google Nest Wi-Fi, which does indeed have a Thread router. However, as of the time of filming, it says functionality not yet available. This was literally the only access point I could find that has a Thread radio built in. I'm sure there are others out there, but to say many manufacturers have one is quite a stretch in my opinion, especially when one of your flagship members has one, but the functionality isn't even enabled yet. There is only a very small number of Thread-enabled products out there in the wild at the moment, with the very first one being the Google Nest Max from back in 2019, the Google Nest Wi-Fi, which I mentioned earlier doesn't even have Thread enabled, the Apple HomePod Mini, which is the device that got a lot of people talking about Thread, and some devices from Nanoleaf and Eve. What's interesting about these devices from Nanoleaf and Eve is that they both specifically say that all you need is a HomePod Mini to utilize Thread, and both only list themselves as HomeKit compatible, which has me questioning the device compatibility, because if Google has the Google Nest Max which has Thread and doesn't say it's disabled, why can't you use it with these devices? Why is it specifically HomeKit compatible? Is this Google dragging its feet to enable Thread, or is it that even though they are Thread certified, they can still be restricted through software to only work with one assistant? On the surface at least, it would appear to be the latter because of the use of the word exclusively here. Does that mean we could end up in a scenario where manufacturer A has an exclusive HomeKit deal and manufacturer B has an exclusive Google Home deal, and then I need to buy two border routers in order to use them? This is starting to sound like another protocol that was designed to be open and promote interoperability. Now, if it sounds like I'm hating on Thread, let's be clear, I'm not. I really want Thread to succeed and become the new standard, because the smart home market is in dire need of a true standard that manufacturers will actually adhere to. During my research of Thread, I was actually very impressed and also excited at some of the features that Thread has to offer. The reality is that Thread, and in particular Thread products, are only really in their infancy, and so it remains to be seen exactly how good Thread will be. We all know how we've been overpromised and under-delivered in the past, and so forgive me if I'm a little more hesitant to buy into the hype this time around. But what do you guys think about Thread? Did I miss the mark? Was I too critical? Are you already on that hype train all the way to Threadland? Please do let me know in the comments down below. Whilst you're down there, make sure to hit that like button and get subscribed if you aren't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.